Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The Śrī Īśopaniṣad class. We will first start with Mangalacharan prayers. I will share my screen. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Śrī Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada. On the Zoom, we will stay mute, Mataji, okay? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we usually start with our invocation verse of Śrī Īśopaniṣad and the Ishavashya mantra. So we will recite those as well. And why is this here? I will share this screen. Please repeat after me. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Asya Purnamadaya Purnam eva avashishyate. Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete.
The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete.
And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself.
Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself.
Because he is the complete whole.
Because he is the complete whole.
So many complete units emanate from him.
Even though so many complete units emanate from him,
he remains the complete balance.
He remains the complete balance.
Ishavashyam idam sarvam.
Ishavashyam idam sarvam.
Jagat.
Yatkincha jagatyam jagat
yaktena bunjitha
yen taktena bhunjitha
mahridha kasya svidhanam.
agudha kasya sudhanam.
Everything animate or inanimate
Everything animate or inanimate
that is within the universe
that is within the universe
is controlled and owned by the Lord.
is controlled and owned by the Lord.
One should therefore accept only those things
One should therefore accept only those
things
necessary for himself
necessary for himself,
are set aside as his quota,
which are set aside as his quota,
and one should not accept other things,
and one should not accept other things,
knowing well to whom they belong.
knowing well to whom they belong.
Thank you. Now you can all mute yourself. Thank you. So these two verses we recite every time because they are very, very important. One of them is a knowledge verse and one of them is an application verse, practical application. The previous verse and these two are the foundation of the entire Īśopaniṣad. So the first verse is saying that everything is coming from the Supreme Lord. Purnamadaha Purnam Idam. The Supreme Lord is complete and perfect. Purnam Idam. This material world is also complete and perfect for the purpose of our spiritual progress, not for our sense gratification. It is not complete and perfect. But for our spiritual progress, it is complete and perfect. And that is also what is meant in the first two lines of the Īśavāśya verse. So it is still knowledge. The first two lines are knowledge. The next two lines are highly practical. Īśavāśyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. That this everything in this jagat belongs to Isha. Isha means Ishvara. So everything is Ishwar's property. We are just temporary caretakers. Like a renter in an apartment. We know that if we take good care of the apartment, then when we leave the apartment, there will not be a big bill to, pay. So the second two lines, tena tyaktena bhunjitha ma gridha kasya svidhanam, that we should only remain within our quota and not go outside our quota, knowing that really God is the owner of the property. And he has allocated that to other living entities, not to us. Whatever is our small quota, we should stay within that. And we have done very detailed discussions on all this. So you can review the previous, classes. You can read Srila Prabhupada's purports. Questions are like, what do we know? How do we know what is our quota? And so on. So we will not go into that because we have discussed that in great detail. Today's focus is going to be mantras 9 and 10. So we are somewhere in the middle of mantra 9 and 10. But before we go into mantra 9 and 10, we have seen that Īśopaniṣad has certain sections. So this is a continuation of a series of Īśopaniṣad. Īśopaniṣad has 18 mantras and it alternates between knowledge and practical application. Knowledge, practical application. It's like theory and practice, theory and practice, theory and practice. So today is 2 verses, 9, actually 3 verses, 9, 10, 11. So we will see how much we can cover. Usually it is meant to be covered in 2 classes, which is what I want to do. So these 3 verses we will cover over a period of 2 classes. So before that, it is very important to just quickly review the practical essence of the previous 3 mantras. And it is the main thing is what to put into practice. So the 6th verse is tato na vijugupsate. That was the line there, which meant that do not hate or criticize anyone. So there are I just want to mention this for those who have been following the sequence. The previous 3 verses, 6, 7, 8, may appear as if they are knowledge-oriented verses. It may appear like that, but I wanted to draw out the practical aspect from those three, which is very clearly given in the verse, but sometimes when we read quickly or when we don't read carefully, it may not be obvious. So here it is showing the very clear practical application of these three verses, 6, 7, and 8. So the first one is, do not hate or criticize anyone. Isn't it a practical advice? It is hidden behind this theory that why we should not hate or criticize anyone, since all living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord. We are all brothers in that sense. We have a common father. So we should not hate or criticize anyone. Then the second one is that when one realizes that we are all living entities as spiritual sparks, there is no illusion or lamentation. The Sanskrit is ka moha ka shoka. What moha and what shoka remains there? Moha means illusion or delusion, that something is mine and should not be taken away from me. That is the delusion. And when it is taken away, then it leads to shoka. So moha leads to shoka. So when we realize that all living entities, not only living entities, everything in this world belongs to Bhagavan, what can you take from anybody? Okay. It's like you are driving by the bank. And as you are getting closer to the bank, as you are driving on the road, you feel like all the property of the bank is mine. And when you go past the bank, you feel sad. Oh, the property in the bank is I'm losing, I'm being. It was never yours. So we don't feel that way when we drive by the bank, do we? But we feel like that for our so-called personal property. But if we treat it as if it is the bank, the example also we took as a dream. Many people may dream in the world sometimes that the whole, I'm the king of the world. But when you get up, you don't feel so sad. It was just a dream. Right? Nobody laments shoka out of a dream. So like that. So no illusion or lamentation. And finally, it is mentioned in verse number 8 that the Lord is so great. The word that was used was shukra. And he has been fulfilling and can fulfill all desires. That is the content of number 8. The practical learning from that is how to desire properly. Yes, he can fulfill all desires, but we keep desiring for things that ultimately come and bite us. So what is the proper thing to desire so that when he gives it, we will be eternally happy? So this is the practical learning from these three I wanted to. And this leads us into the next verse of how to understand that how to desire properly. So the next two learning verses. So next, now we will go into 9 and 10. Okay. 9, 10, and 11 technically, but how to desire properly, or what should we ask for, what should we aim for, what should we search for, what should we desire for? That goes into the concept of Vidya and Avidya. Okay, so before we go into this, I will just recite the two verses and go over the translation, 9 and 10. Okay, so 9 and 10, where is this? Right here. Okay, so I'm showing 9 here. Hmm. 9. Okay, I will only recite. We will not do group recitation. Andham tamah pravishanti ye avidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tatamo yau vidyayam ratah. So that is 9, and we will do 9 and 10 together. So let us read the translation of this. Number 9. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those who are engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So I will go into it slowly now. Andham tamaha pravishanti. So pravishanti means what? Pravesh. Pravishanti. You all understand? Pravesh karna. Pravesh means what? To enter. So those people, they enter into, they pravishanti into andham tamaha, into the darkest ignorance. Andha is dark and tama means ignorance. Okay, so those people, and we will see which people, those people enter into the darkest ignorance. Who are those? Ye avidyam upasate. Upasate means what? Upasana karna. What is upasana? To worship. Those who worship what? Avidya. Clear? So those who worship avidya, they enter into the darkest ignorance. That is understandable, isn't it? Next line is very confusing. Tato bhuya ivate tamo. So what it means is that they enter into even more. Bhuya means a stronger or a deeper level of tamo. So there is another category of people who enter into even more tamas, even more darkness. Who are they? Ya'u vidyayam rataha. Ratah means expert. Expert in something. Okay. So who are expert in what? Vidya. Okay. So what it means, as you can see even from the translation, those who engage in the culture of nescient activities or avidya. The English translation Srila Prabhupada has given of nescient activities is, am I sharing by the way?
No problem.
Uh-oh. Yeah. So this nescient activities here is avidya. So those who engage in avidya shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. That is understandable. Worse still are those who are engaged in vidya. So how is that possible? Vidya is supposed to be good. Avidya, we all understand, is bad. So the understanding is so-called knowledge. So I will explain that in a little bit. Let us go into the next verse, number 10, and we will deal with both of these together. Anyad evahur vidyaya, anyad ahur avidyaya, iti shushrumadhiranam ye nastad vichachakshire. So the translation is, the wise have explained that one result is achieved or derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nations. So if you see the verse, it is Anyad evahur vidyaya. So ahur, which is over here, ahur, as well as over here. So ahur means it is said. So anyad, one result, is obtained through vidya. Anyad, and a different result is obtained through avidya. So there are two separate results that are obtained through vidya and through avidya. One through vidya, one through avidya. Okay. I know everybody is confused. How many of you feel confused? Good. So that's what Srila Prabhupada's purport and the class will clarify. This is Upanishad. Okay. Bhagavad Gita and the other Bhakti scriptures are far more straightforward. Upanishads are meant for the Gyanis. So you are getting a taste, and the Gyanis rejoice in this kind of, it's like puzzle solving. They like to solve puzzles. So we must always therefore understand the Upanishads, and even like I have said so many times, the Vedanta Sutras are even more bigger puzzles. So always we must try to understand the Upanishads through the commentaries, through the teachings of the Acharyas. Just by reading this, the verses of the Upanishads is going to be very hard to understand. What is Vidya? What is Avidya? Anyway, and that is what is given in the next two lines. Iti shushruma dhiranam. Dhiranam means dhira. Dhira means the wise people, or the people who are sober or stable, or who can think with a calm mind. That is dhira. Like, when a water in a, muddy pool, if you churn the water, the whole water becomes muddy. Can you see the base of the pool at that point? No, leave it for some time. Let it dhira, let it settle down. All the dust settles. Then can you see the bottom of the pool? Yes. So that is known as calm waters. When the waters are calm, then you can see deeper. When your mind is all turbulent and just kind of going, then you cannot see anything. So that is dhira. Iti shushruma dhira means that this is what is shushru. Shushru means to hear. Even Bhagavan says, Shrinu me paramam vachaha, or tat shrinu, to hear. So shushru me iti shushruma dhirana. From those whose minds are calm, they can see deeply. Ye nastad vicha chakshire means they have explained it. Who can see deeply, and they can see deeply because of a calm and stable mind. So therefore, here itself in the Īśopaniṣad, it is being said how to understand Īśopaniṣad or any of the Upanishads through the explanation, vicha chakshire, through the explanation of the dhiras. So we will look at what the dhiras and who is the most important dhira we follow to understand this. Srila Prabhupada. Exactly. So we read his commentaries and his purports and translations. All right. So if you are confused at this point, more or less or somewhat, that's a good place to be. So let us go to the slides I have prepared just to follow our discussion. Let me share it. Okay. Can you see the slides on the Zoom?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Nice. So there are three main concepts in the first two verses. And in the 11th verse, there is a which we are not going to cover today, definitely. If we can cover 9 and 10, that itself will be good. So the first concept, as you could realize, what was the first verse? That those who are doing study of, or those who are worshipping upasate of avidya, they go into darkest ignorance. So that is avidya. But the verse said those who are pursuing vidya go into even more darkness. So the biggest question is, what is the meaning of vidya and avidya really? That is the crux. Okay, we must understand that. When we understand that, then it may be easy to understand who goes where. Let us first understand the definition or the meaning of vidya and avidya. Then the rest of it might be clear. All right. So that is the first main concept that we want to understand. So this slide is showing the main concepts across these three verses. Okay. So we will go into the discussion of what is vidya, what is avidya. Then the next one said that there is one result achieved from vidya and one result achieved from avidya. So what is the destination? Where does one go when one follows vidya and avidya, which we will see what it means. And then we will see the discussion of dhira versus adhira. Who is a dhira? Who is a adhira? If you want to see deeply, you have to be a dhira. So who is a dhira? Who is an adhira? That also we will see. And mantra 11 is going into a very interesting concept, and I have some very interesting things to share with you on this topic: how to transcend death and attain immortality. Now, no surprises here. You won't, it's not any kind of magic formula that you will become immortal or some to slow your aging process or all those things, and you're not going to be put into some kind of freezing chamber like Han Solo, or how many of you have seen that? Han Solo, you're familiar with all that? He was frozen, whatever, right? So it won't be any of that. So anyway, so that we will go into next week. So ready for the discussion between Vidya and Avidya? So that is the first discussion we will have. All right. So Vidya versus Avidya. So avidya, again, in bracket, I have said of this verse. And even in Vidya, I have said of this verse. As given in this verse, what is the meaning of Vidya and avidya? Okay. So first we will deal with avidya. Let us get that out of the way. It's the simpler one. Okay. So what is avidya? It is straightforward avidya. You all can understand. Avidya, and we know it is dangerous. So avidya in a nutshell means materially ignorant. Correct? And it means sinful, illegal, lawless life. Okay? Which another way is basically too much or unrestricted sense gratification. Basically, although you know that it is bad, it is in the domain of, this is very important, and I will cover this in the next slide as well. So it may be some points I might repeat. It is in the domain of, you know that you don't know. Know that you don't know. There are three domains. Know that you know. So those are that's one domain. The second domain is know, you know something that you don't know. I know that I don't know this. So it's like this. I don't know what it is to lead a pious life or to not lead a sinful life. So I'm leading a sinful life. It is ignorance. All right. And so many things are included in that. This is straightforward, and we all agree it is dangerous. Now comes the more important part. What is Vidya of this verse? And that is actually real avidya. That's real avidya. The previous one was the small avidya. This one is the bigger avidya. And therefore it is even more dangerous. What it means is to be materially knowledgeable. Okay, that we all understood. Vidya means to be knowledgeable. And the additional word that is being added is to be materially knowledgeable. Now, some of you can sense where we are going with this. So materially knowledgeable. Okay, so let us go to next slide. So-called avidya. That's what Srila Prabhupada said in the translation. So-called knowledge. So it is so-called avidya. So-called Vidya. We are in the discussion of Vidya. Avidya is done. We are not going to discuss avidya. Okay. So-called Vidya, which is real avidya, is even more dangerous. So what is the meaning of that? The meaning of that is, again, the fundamental meaning is this: gross violation of the Īśavāsya principle. We just discussed the Īśavāsya principle in brief for those who may not have attended previous classes. That basically looking at the material world as separate from Krishna, as if this is my property. What does the Īśavāsya principle say? Everything belongs to Krishna, and we are just temporary caretakers. But if the renter of the apartment begins to think I am the owner of the apartment, then he lands in trouble. So that is real avidya. So what does it mean? Here is the practical understanding of this. This is very, very important for you or for us to understand. Why is it more dangerous? It is more dangerous. Now, this is where it comes into the domain of, so the thing is that there is some Vidya, material knowledge. You go to a university, you first do 12 years of K through 12 education, your secondary school or whatever, high school. Then you go to university, then you go to PhD, then you become whatever, double PhD. You become very knowledgeable man. You get a big, crown on your head saying double PhD, triple PhD person. All of this will be on YouTube, by the way. So the slides, you can take, there's no problem. But I'm just saying, you don't have to, everything will show up there. As long as I'm sharing, it's important for me to share screen. That's the only thing that will get captured. So the point is, it gives us a false impression of pursuing Vidya. Those who are sinful, those who are ignorant, they know they are ignorant. They know that there is some Vidya out there which I don't know. So till I know it, I will remain ignorant. I will try to do whatever best possible I can for my survival. I will loot, I will, steal, I will do all the bad things just for my survival. Because I don't know how to live legally. But there is somebody out there who can, there are people out there who know how to live legally. Real avidya is that those people also, who are the so-called educated people, they think they have understood everything. They have this false impression that this is knowledge. And if I live like this, I will be happy. So a large part of Srila Prabhupada's purport is focused on the hollowness of modern advanced education. How hollow it is. All right. It makes us think that we are making progress in the right direction. But actually, it is the wrong direction. So what thing do you observe here on the slide, which is kind of picking your attention? The dollar bill, isn't it? So why I have put dollar bill there? The dollar bill, what does it say on the dollar bill?
In God we trust.
This line is very important here. Have you ever observed on the dollar bill, it says, in God we trust. Okay, now just see the stark contradiction here. Please see it. I also knew that line is there, but until I read Srila Prabhupada's purport, I didn't kind of realize this. Now, he doesn't bring out the point of dollar bill. I brought it out. But anyway, the stark contradiction is the US economy, correct? The dollar bill is the front face of the US economy, isn't it? Huh? And what is US economy based on?
Consumerism.
Capitalism.
Yes.
Consumerism.
Capitalism. Consumerism is a result of that. Ultimately, it is capitalism. Is the result of that. And capitalism means what? What does capitalism mean?
Money is God.
Money is God. In essence, if you think about it, I can say one or two more lines about it. But capitalism basically means free markets, free trade, supply demand, and this was the basic fundamental the difference between capitalism and communism. Communism believed in some higher authority distributing resources equally. Capitalism means that leave the markets free, the supply demand will automatically, after some impedance, will just balance itself, and the resource distribution will automatically become normalized, or according to the needs. The markets will self-adjust. That is capitalism. Therefore, the fundamental point of capitalism is money or resources. Money, dollar is just a representation of resources. Okay, it's a common unifying resource counting mechanism. It's just a counting mechanism. So basically on the dollar bill, we put the line, in God we trust. But really, the only God we trust is the dollar bill. There is no other God in capitalism. That is the point. Okay. And therefore, even though that line is there, in God we trust, really the whole system is based on money itself. So the system itself is making everybody pursue money. Even if you want, in the United States, even if you want to save money in your 401k, there is no option other than to put it in some mutual fund, some investment or something. There is no other option. You can have less risk, high risk, that all is there, but at least you have to take some risk. So the whole system is around this, and this is what is being called as a false sense of direction, as if chasing money is the right direction. And all of education, even our education system, is around this concept, is around economy. The Department of Economics are one of the most popular departments in all the universities. Many people, they pursue degrees in economics. The Nobel Prize earlier, the economics was not part of the Nobel Prize. It was only physics, chemistry, physiology, literature, and peace. Those were the 5 Nobel Prizes. Then later on, they added economics because it is so important for economic theories to exist. How to make more money, or how to distribute basically resources across people in a so-called fair manner. So the point is that all of modern education, everything is geared towards economy, is geared towards money, and it gives us a false impression that we are very knowledgeable. And through this knowledge, we will somehow become happy. And that is actually the wrong direction. But people are not, students who are, even growing up, they are not forced to think, pause and think, is this the right direction? We're just given this direction and are running very fast in this direction. So basically, the small avidya people are directionless. They don't even know the right direction. They are searching for the direction. How can I live out of jail? They always, get into trouble, get into jail. They are avidya at a general level. They are just trying to search how to get out of jail. The so-called Vidya people are out of jail and are running very fast in a given direction, but that happens to be the wrong direction. So that's why it is more dangerous. So it is in the domain of you, they don't even know that they don't know that they are running in the wrong direction. They are very clear in their mind, I'm running in the right direction. And therefore, they will never even ask themselves the question, what is the right direction? They already think they know the right direction. At least the people who are in avidya, straightforward avidya, will at least stop and think what direction I should run. Then the Vidya people will come and give them the wrong direction, and they will also start running in that. But at least they, for some time, as long as they are in avidya, are stopping and thinking, what should I do with my life? But these so-called knowledgeable people, they perfectly know what to do with their life. And then what happens? Are they happy? Well, yes, temporary happiness may be there, but there is no permanent happiness. Okay. And we will come to that point a little later. I mean, USA is one of the most advanced, materially advanced countries. 7 out of I did some research just to give you some numbers. 7 out of the top 10 universities in the world are from USA. All these Harvards and Stanfords and everything. And 2 of them, which are in the top 10, are so old that now they should be kicked out. They are Cambridge and Oxford. They were established before even the USA existed. So anyway, so 7 out of top 10 universities are from USA. More than 60% of billionaires out of the top 500 are from USA, including the top 3 people. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and I don't remember who is the third, maybe Bill Gates or whoever, I don't remember. And they keep changing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, this is a country of great education, great riches, but this is also the country where there is maximum depression, maximum these chronic diseases, diabetes, obesity. This is also the country, and per capita, I'm saying, maximum single person homes. Single person home, samajhte hain? Where in the home, there is one person. Basically, there's no relationships. Okay, permanent bachelors. So that is the situation of great advanced education and so much money. And then on the top of that, I'm kind of spilling into next slide because I'm going in the flow. We are fighting all these wars all the time. And then all those soldiers, when they come back, they have PTSD, post-traumatic, what is that? Stress disorder. trauma, all those things. So what has all this education done? We have built the greatest weapons. Today only I was seeing in the news, some latest and greatest new bomber was released by the Pentagon. Some successor to the B-2. First, there used to be the B-52, which was used in Second World War. Then there was B-2 bomber. Looks like really cool, like a sheet of paper or something. This one is probably, I didn't read the full article, but it's even more advanced. So we keep coming up with all these things. Ultimate result will be PTSD. So that is one thing, that is give you one sense of the advanced education, advanced, so to say, modern civilization. Then the second point. So we will go into the second point, which is this section of the PowerPoint slide. Okay, the middle section. So I have broken down this and there is gap between the sections. Okay. There is so-called spiritual progress. So-called. There is a pretense of spiritual knowledge. How can I zoom? It's okay. Listen. Okay. 100 years ago, there was no TV and still there was spiritual knowledge. There was more spiritual knowledge. There was no PowerPoint. There was no nothing. Okay. So just hearing. And actually, I have seen that just by hearing with attention, there is more absorption instead of diverting your two senses, eyes and ears, on two separate sources. If you are looking with your eyes on something visual, and if through your ears you are hearing somebody speaking, it's hard to kind of, match those. So best slides are those which just have a picture or something like that, so that, you can see one picture which is not so fast moving. But here I have just put it anyway, so that, the Bhakti Shastri students can also just take screenshot from YouTube and for their answers and homeworks and tests. Anyway, so the pretense of spiritual knowledge is there. What does that mean? That often spiritual education becomes a tool for material progress. Oh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to do meditation. Every morning I get up and do meditation. Why meditation? So that I can relieve my stress. So that I can have some, mental peace. Okay, what will you do when you have less stress and mental peace? Oh, I will go to office and work better and earn more money. So even you are using the spiritual things as tools for material progress, to relieve your stress, to live longer, so that heart attack doesn't happen. That is not the purpose of spiritual education, to give you a longer life so that you can do more sense gratification. So there is some spirituality, but it is also misdirected. Somebody may say, yes, Vidya. Oh yes, we do spirituality. We are not completely spiritual averse. We have spirituality. But again, the goal is misdirected. The goal of spirituality is to connect with God, not to extend our life so that we can enjoy more. That's not the purpose. But that has become the purpose. Or spirituality is misused, misinterpreted, or abused in some cases for self-interest. In the name of spirituality, so much hanky-panky goes on behind the curtain. Child abuse and so many things. Oppression of people and even wars. People are brainwashed into, oh, if you go and blow up 500 people, the more you blow up, the more you will go into heaven and enjoy with, all kind of wonderful things you will enjoy in heaven. So go, so abuse of, and if you are doing that, you are being very spiritual. You are connecting with God. So that is abuse of spirituality, again for sense gratification. Otherwise, now coming to the last point, all these modern Vidya people who are, Vidya, great education, high education. Oh, you are reading Bhagavad Gita. Oh, you are reading Bible. Oh, you are so backward. Why you are wasting your time in reading all these books? They were meant for 2000, 5000 years ago. Today we have modern education. Why do you need God? That time there were no vaccines, there was no surgery, so people had to depend on God. Now we have all those, we are the gods. Tell me what problem you have. You have COVID, we have vaccine. You have this disease, we have the answer. We have answer to everything. So why you need God? You're so backward. So spiritual knowledge is condemned as being backward, ancient, or having no modern relevance. We don't need. This also in sort of philosophy of science. There's a whole branch called philosophy of science. And the science of religion also, kind of, which talks about the intersection of science and religion. There is this very common term used in the academic areas known as God of the gaps. Do you understand? God of the gaps. What does that mean? It means that in our modern education or our modern knowledge, we have some gaps. And wherever we have gaps, we use God to fill those gaps. It's like, earlier when there was tuberculosis, like I know that because my grandfather, my father's father, died from tuberculosis. He died when my father was 2 years old. So my father was born in 1927, I think. So he must have died in 1929 out of TB. So if you got TB in the 1920s in India, let us say, then all you have to do is pray to God. Okay. So God is going to fill your gap of curing TB. Now we have cure for TB. So the gap has shrunk. Now, if you get TB, no need to pray to God. You need to pray to the doctor. Don't even need to pray. Just pay him the money. You can buy the prayer, or you can buy the medicine. You cannot buy God, but you can buy the medicine. So we have shrunk the gap. And slowly we are shrinking the gap. 20 years ago, if you had cancer, then you have to pray to God. These days, there are so many cancer survivors. So the gap of cancer is shrinking. Maybe in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, there will be a day when cancer will be completely solved. So the gap is shrinking. And whenever the gap is there, then you pray to God. But modern education, what it is doing? It is shrinking the gap. And a day will come when the gap will be what? Zero. And then we will have no need for God. So that is the direction of modern education. Are you following? That is Avidya. But can you see it as Vidya? I used the word education. What is the Sanskrit of education? Vidya, or knowledge, right? So as Vidya is increasing, the need for God is decreasing. Because modern education has converted God to God of the gaps. That is real avidya. And that is why it is even more dangerous, because most of the people are so convinced we don't need God. We are so convinced that we don't need God. Even people earlier would feel afraid of enlisting in the army because you could get killed. Today, people are less afraid of enlisting in the US Army because it is so powerful. In any war, or like in Afghanistan or something, some 100,000 Afghans might have been killed and hardly 200, 300 US soldiers are killed. Because the ammunition, the protection is just so strong. So we don't need God again. We will depend on our own strength to protect ourselves, our own technological advancements. You don't need to send people to war. You can just send the latest and greatest bomber. Okay. So now you understand what is real avidya. Is that clarified? And do you also understand how it is more dangerous than the ordinary avidya? Is that clear? To a fair, the confusion has little bit reduced, right? So that is the blue box here. That's the bottom line over here. That is why this so-called modern or forward-looking, forward, what we call backward scriptures, the Īśopaniṣad is backward, so to say, and our modern education is forward. Why it is so dangerous? Because it suppresses real Vidya. Suppresses means it says no need. No need for this, all this Vidya. Okay. So that is why it is more dangerous. Next, we'll go to the topic of the result of following avidya. So we are now going into the topic of the next verse, which is the 10th one. 10th verse. All right. So the result of following the real avidya. The result of following avidya, the small avidya, is what? You go to jail. Right? You are directionless. You don't know what is right and wrong. You steal, you kill, you do this, you do that. You go to jail, whatever. Bad things happen to you. At a material level. If you are following real avidya, you can enjoy happiness. Isn't it? If you are double PhD, triple PhD, there is some happiness. You may have a good job or whatever, you'll get a good husband or wife. You will have nice house, this, that. Temporary happiness could still be there. But is it eternal happiness? No. So, but the purpose of education, the purpose of knowledge, true knowledge is what? What is the purpose of true knowledge? No. True material knowledge. No, I shouldn't say true. I should say what is the incessant purpose that knowledge is driving towards. Even material knowledge is to be happy, isn't it? Ultimately, if you ask a triple PhD who is a multi-millionaire, what are you going to ultimately, after a certain point, the number of zeros don't matter in your bank account. Okay. Even if you are a Elon Musk, you can still eat only one plate of food. Just because you are a billionaire, you cannot eat, even though you enjoy eating whatever, maybe pizza and cake and rasgulla, you can still eat only limited amount, as much as a poor man can eat. No more. So the purpose is to be happy. And beyond a certain point, the amount of richness or the amount of PhDs that you have doesn't matter. Okay. A person with a single PhD, most Nobel laureates are single PhDs. It's not a triple Nobel laureate has higher chances, or he can win three Nobel prizes. So after a certain point, your knowledge also, you cannot use that knowledge. How much you will use it? Ultimately, you have to apply it for the sake of happiness. So the pursuit is happiness. Even if you are building all these weapons, we say it is for deterrence. The purpose, the stated purpose is deterrence, isn't it? All these, even, and that is true. Deterrence comes from strength. I was listening to one speech. I highly respect APJ Abdul Kalam. And he is the missile man of India. So there was an interview by him, by somebody. He said, how do you feel for, developing all these missiles and all, which can deliver nuclear weapons? So he said that, peace comes from strength. Okay. If we are not strong, then we cannot be peaceful, because outside there are people who want to cause trouble. If everybody is equally peaceful and equally interested, then there will be no need for weapons. So in Satyuga, there was no need for weapons. But even Maharaj Yudhishthir, which was not yet Kali Yuga, even he did the Rajasuya Yagya to establish his ultimate authority over the entire planet. And some kings could see that he is a very righteous, very dharmic, very nice, king. They gladly accepted his supremacy. But some of them objected, and there were fights, there were wars. Nakula and Sahadev, all these four brothers, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadev, went in the four different directions. And many of the people just said, yes, we accept the supremacy of Yudhishthir Maharaj. And some of them objected, and they defeated them, the four brothers. And they returned after, the defeat of everyone. And then Maharaj Yudhishthir became the emperor. So that was the result of the Rajasuya Yagya. The idea again in the Mahabharata, it is written so that there can be peace. But for that, you need to have the head of state as very, very honest and very pure. So I don't know about India's nuclear program, but I have great faith and trust in people like AJP Abdul Kalam when they say that, yes, it is for peace. So we have to see how many countries today with the modern advancement who say, yes, nuclear weapons are for deterrence, are really meant for peace or meant for aggression. Okay. I know we are getting over time, but like Putin, I think I can say this. He says that, if there is a direct threat to the borders of my country, I will use nuclear weapons. Then 1 month later, what does he do? He goes to Ukraine, captures 3 or 4 states, holds some kind of a vote, says this is Russia. Now the Ukrainian people are fighting to get back their land and say, now you are invading Russia. So I am, my principle of, if you invade me, suddenly he claimed the Ukraine land as his own, and he's saying, now you're invading, so I can use nuclear weapons. So it just seems like a made up story. All wars, even the Second World War, started like this. If you listen to the aggressor's side, he will be having a very good explanation of why he is justified to use his power to aggress. Okay. So I went into sort of this area, animosity, wars, all this imbalance of resources. I was again listening to another video recently about, you all, what is the main thing happening these days in the world other than Ukraine war that you all enjoy seeing? Come on.
World Cup.
हाँ, what क्या बोल रहे हैं?
World Cup.
World Cup. Isn't that the main thing happening these days? So I was looking at some of these. I, like to look at some of these sort of humanity. Qatar, for example, I don't know how much of that is true. I mean, they created basically new cities, sprung up within a span of 5 years. And so much of labor, what do you call? क्या बोलेंगे उसको? Labor rights violation, human rights violations. It was not like if a laborer who was working there was working out of his own will, and he says, oh my God, you're not paying me so much enough. It is so hot. All these things, I quit and I want to go. That was not the case. Their passports, it seems, were, क्या कहते हैं उसे? जब्त कर लिया, confiscated. You cannot leave. Okay, yes, I'll pay you how much ever it's. If it's a purely capitalistic society, both parties need to have the right to move out. Okay, the working conditions are too bad, the pay is not good, I walk out. Then I can say that to some extent it is fair. It seems that was not allowed. It's like a mafia gang. Once you are in, you are in. There's no way out. So many laborers were exploited, it seems. And now the whole world is enjoying World Cup. People, these laborers were working in 52 centigrade. How much that is? Here we start, as if the whole world has come to an end if it is 110 Fahrenheit. 52 degrees is how much? 125 or 130 degree Fahrenheit. So all that is happening. So that is called imbalance of resources. And we think it is, oh, great, how you have come up with all these, modern, fantastic cities and tall buildings and wonder of the world. And then there are all these artificial borders and everything. You go and grab a land and you say, this is my country. Recently, they stopped celebrating Columbus Day. There is a very good book of history that I would urge you to read, written, and it's very popular in America. It's called basically the American history or something by a historian called Howard Zinn, Z or Z-I-N-N. Very famous history book of the US. Many schools even use it. None of the government public schools will not use that. But many private schools, charter schools, all these other schools use that book. Look up Howard Zinn. It explains the kind of the absolute brutal nature of atrocities that were done on the local Indian civilization. Indian means the American Indian, the Native American, what is called. And then you suddenly say that it is my border. Now nobody can come in. So all this is happening in the name of Vidya. So all this imbalance of resources, animosity, wars, all this is the result of Avidya, and those who are engaging in this Avidya will pay the price. Okay, so the whole solution is based on, so basically that whole thing is a misuse of modern education. Modern education being misused for the wrong purpose. What is the wrong purpose? To dominate over material nature. That is the purpose. Whereas the real purpose should be to try to understand, or the real use of modern education should be to understand the real purpose of this world, to the purpose of material nature. Idam Purnam. Okay? Purnam Idam. Purnam Adaha Purnam Idam. This material world is complete and perfect for our spiritual progress. There may be some spirituality classes in universities, but they never connect it. That is like an isolated class. And mostly those classes are for morality. But when you are learning some science or engineering, there is never any focus that through this modern advancement, how can I make spiritual progress? The whole focus is how can I make economic progress? Isn't it? That is all that is taught. How to make economic progress. How to make something cheaper. Same thing, but at cheaper cost. Or same cost, but better than that before. So people will buy. That's all that is there. It is never said that you do this so that you can make spiritual progress. That is never a thing. Those spirituality classes may exist, but in a very, very isolated manner. And the other point is that much of modern education or this modern society is based on quick fix culture. Quick fix culture means to solve or address or suppress the symptoms versus treating the root cause. Just a small example. Are you all familiar with this disease called COVID? Right? How did it start? At least one of the story goes that it started in the wet market of Wuhan, not in the labs. We won't go into that conspiracy theory of it was a virus that was developed in the labs of Wuhan Institute of Virology. So that's not what I'm saying, but everybody agrees that the main explanation is it started in the wet market. Wet market means the seafood market. Real, like wet, like freshly grabbed from the sea, brought to the market. Like we say here, what do you say? Farm. What do you say? Berry picking, farm fresh. So wet market is the equivalent of farm fresh. And people want to drink, it seems, bat soup. Pretty gross, but that's what it is, isn't it? And that's how the virus jumped from the mammal bat and it mutated or whatever. I'm not a virologist, but into humans. Did they close the wet market? Well, they closed it at that time, but right now it is fully open. Did they stop eating bat soup or similar kinds of soups? What did the world do instead? It developed a COVID vaccine, isn't it? So did they address the symptom or did they address the root cause? You only tell. Symptom. Tomorrow there could be something else. So the root cause was not addressed, because addressing the root cause means giving up our sense gratification. That is not negotiable. So we solve the temporary problem. Temporary problem means the symptoms. Symptom is the problem, we think, not the root cause. But everybody knows we should address the root cause. If you are a software engineer, you cannot just fix the bug at a symptom level. Your manager will say, I want to fix the root cause, isn't it? So when you want to, we all know that root cause, fixing the root cause is important. But in the most important matters of our life, we only fix the symptoms. Because fixing the root cause means needs to be some austerity. There needs to be some sacrifice. And what sacrifice? Of our sense gratification, of our vasana. That is not possible. How can we give up that? So we keep going from problem to solution to next problem. Now, I don't know about, again, all the conspiracy theories about vaccines, and I don't subscribe to those. And for the record, I took the vaccine, including the booster. I have a whole video on YouTube on whether to take the vaccine or not, and a whole spiritual discussion about it as well. So you can go look at that. But it seems that the vaccine has some side effects, some long-term heart problems or something, people are saying. Well, at the time I took the vaccine, I made a trade-off. Do I want to die of COVID in the near future, maybe? Or do I want to, maybe if there is a heart disease in the long run, and die of a heart attack? There was a risk. I chose the former. But it wasn't a clean solution. It was a solution that potentially created another problem. Then they will come up with another solution to fix that problem. That is called a band-aid on top of a band-aid on top of a band-aid on top of a band-aid. So modern education, and all these are top scientists, isn't it? Top scientists are working on coming up with these vaccines. Okay? These are very, very brilliant scientists from the topmost universities, PhD people. Are you following? It's not somebody like you, or not you, definitely like me, who doesn't have a PhD. Okay? So they are very smart people who are working on it, but they are working on the wrong problem. So they are solving temporary problems, not the real ones. That is the issue. And the result is, what is the result? We said, what is the result, right? So again, going to the small avidya. We don't have avidya and vidya. The discussion has now, in the last 1 hour, it has changed from small avidya to and big avidya. Those are the only two topics we are talking. Are you following? You're all with me? We are only talking about small avidya versus big avidya. So small avidya, we know the result. You go to jail, or in a general sense, you suffer. The result of big avidya is all this. And so many, this is not limited. I should just add, etc., 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 and the list is long. Okay? So long list of results come from there. Okay? So I gave the example of disease, for example, like COVID coming from bat soup. Okay, you can say here in US, we don't drink bat soup. I mean, we as devotees don't even drink any or eat anything non-veg, but bat soup also is like, very gross. But so many other diseases are there of which there is no even vaccine. What are those ones? Diabetes. Is there a diabetes vaccine? Cholesterol, high BP. Huh? And what are the result of that? How do they come about? Also sense gratification. Sit in front of TV and keep eating chips. Couch potato. Literally sit on the couch and eat potato chips. That is couch potato. So it leads to all these problems, and that is just sense gratification. And then we come up with medicines for that, anti-cholesterol, anti-BP, and they come with a long list of side effects and all those things. So the result of avidya, the big avidya, it's not illegal to watch TV and eat potato chips, right? So it's allowed, and that therefore it falls in the category of big avidya. And the result of that is all these things: diseases, problems. Solve one problem, you'll get another one. By the time you are older, you are eating a whole handful of pills, 20 pills a day. So that is the result of following the real avidya. Oh, I'm very educated. I have the highest 8K TV with 500 channels. I can, I have a brain chip. Just by thinking which channel I want, it will switch. With one eye, I will watch one channel. With another eye, I will watch another channel. I can watch. That day will also come. People are not satisfied, as they are watching one, they are thinking, oh, I'm missing the another one. So there will be a time when they will watch one with one side of the brain and another side with the another side of the brain. So all the technology will come and you will be glued more and more to your couch. So with great technological advancement, all that is happening is you are becoming more and more. So that's why that will be the result. That's why it is more dangerous. All right. Then Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, I don't have that paragraph based slide. I thought I will just do a sort of a generic discussion, which obviously covers all the points that Srila Prabhupada is making. But another point that Srila Prabhupada really hammers home is the point of following the superficial knowledge in the Vedas. That is also what he calls as avidya. Because as most of you have been part of the Bhagavad Gita class or you have read Bhagavad Gita, 90% of the Vedas are knowledge about karma kanda, how to improve your material life, which is now been replaced by modern technology. So modern technology is nothing, or in some humorous way I am saying, is just a replacement for the 90% portion of the Vedas. That time we didn't have COVID vaccines, but we had even strong mantras. If you have any disease, by chanting these mantras or by, through Ayurveda, the the experts could, when Lakshmanji was hit by the arrow of Meghnath, by giving the Sanjeevani booty, he knew exactly which one it has to come from that mountain. Hanumanji went and brought, he became fine. That was like a vaccine or whatever, real pinpoint according to the disease. So, but what it does, I mean, I'm not talking about Lakshmanji. Lakshmanji is Supreme Lord himself, Sankarshan. But I'm saying that ultimately it is just a cure for a disease. So that is what Vedas are all about, 90%. So Srila Prabhupada talks about just, it's the same thing, replacement. It's just the ancient version of modern technology, even more advanced, by the way. It is also no good. The real thing, and people may think, oh, I am studying Vedas. So Īśopaniṣad is part of the Vedas itself, but this is highly embedded. It is suppressed within it is hidden within the Vedas. So people who may get lost in all that sense gratification part, how to live longer, etc., of the Vedas, how to cure diseases, how to become rich, all that is given. How to have a good life, good family, all those things. How to have nice, healthy children. All that is part of the Vedas, which is very much modern technology. All that is doing is making you temporarily happy. So people may think, I am studying Vedas, so I'm making spiritual progress. But the real purpose of the Vedas is to connect with God. That was also lost even back then. Same thing is happening today. Okay. So the point, that's what Srila Prabhupada is kind of focusing on. I gave it, and he does too, I gave it a little bit of a modern bent. All right.
So in Gita also, Bhagwan says at one point that Vedo ka atikraman kar do.
Atikramana means what?
You leapfrog the Vedas.
Yes,
and
exactly.
come to me.
Yes, exactly. 2.44 to 2.46. 3 verses are there in the second chapter itself, where Lord Krishna says, don't be swayed by the flowery language of the Vedas. Give up the Vedas. All right. Yes, you are absolutely right. All right. Okay. So, yeah. So today, so it's 7:20. We will come to the last slide. If you have any questions, you can raise your hands through the Zoom feature or in the class. So last point, like I just summarized some of the points from various commentaries of the Acharyas. If you just look at the verse, again, I don't want to change the screen sharing and all, but if you look at the verse, it was so confusing, right? The 9th verse. I have the book in my hand, so I will just read from here. Actually, let me just show it for the benefit of people in the room. Just look at the 9th verse, the translation. It's so confusing. I mean, not the translation is not confusing. Srila Prabhupada is doing the accurate translation, but the verse itself is confusing, so to say. Those who engage in the, I will just change the word nescient to avidya. Those who engage in avidya shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those who are engaged in vidya. Oh my God. So one can think, oh my God, what is, avidya is also useless, vidya is also useless. Now what to do? But acharyas, through their commentaries, you can understand the real meaning of vidya and avidya, and that there is a third category, which is real vidya, which is spiritual knowledge, which we talked about. That is what this verse is talking about. Not the 2 types of avidyas, which one of them is being called as vidya, so-called vidya. Both are detrimental. So if one does not read the commentaries of the acharyas, then one will be confused. He cannot understand Upanishads. So the point I'm making is, which is the third point, which we will discuss. We could not get to it as I had expected. Dhirah. The last 2 lines, the second 2 lines of verse number 10. Iti shushrumadhiranam ye nastad vichachakshire. So you must understand this from the explanation, vichachakshire, the explanation of whom? You should hear Shushrunam from the dhirahs. And this is a list of dhirahs, as you can see on the slide. So from their understanding or from their explanations, we can understand what is this mystery. Vidya bhi bekar hai, avidya bhi bekar hai, sab kuch bekar hai. Like, what am I to do? We were confused. So the acharyas clarify it all for us. So here I have shown you, and acharyas give slightly different commentaries. So you can see I have, the 4 commentaries at least that I have access to. Of course, Srila Prabhupada's commentary, the foremost that we use and depend upon. Also, there is Srila Madhavacharya. Madhavacharya is the primary acharya of the Madhva Sampradaya. Then Sri Baladeva Vidyabhushan, great acharya in our disciplic succession. And then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, another great acharya. He's known as the 7th Goswami. So they have all described this avidya and vidya. So avidya is clear. That is the more obvious one. So we'll focus on just the vidya part. And Srila Prabhupada, as you know, is in the modern times. He passed away in 1977. So pretty modern, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur passed away, I think, in 1906 or 1910, somewhere early 1900s. Baladeva Vidyabhushan was in the 1700s. And Madhavacharya was, I don't know, several centuries earlier. So acharyas give the commentaries, give the understanding based on the current, situation, current understanding. The Upanishads are eternal, but how to understand? So therefore he talks about modern advancement of education, all that stuff. Madhavacharya, at that time, several centuries ago, there was this whole thing about the Vedas aspect, worship of demigods. That was the modern advancement. Much more than today, by the way. By worshipping the devatas properly, you could get rain at the right time. Can you get rain at the right time today? No, with all modern technology, you cannot control rain. Can you stop hurricanes? Hurricane Ian, whatever it is doing. There's no technology today. There was technology like that earlier. So it's about that time's modern technology, which we today call as worship of demigods. But that is also avidya. What it is going to do? It's just going to extend your temporary happiness phase to a little longer. It's going to make you a little bit more happy temporarily. Then Sri Baladeva Vidyabhushan, he talks about similar things, impersonal jnana without service, without seva, without bhakti. And he says that through this avidya means engaging only in karma. Okay, proper dharmic karma, dharma artha kama. Maybe you can go to swarga. If you always do very dharmic activities, you can go to swarga. But avidya means engaging in impersonal jnana without any seva. And what happens to such people is that sooner or later, such people will fall down and even swarga will not be attained. At least that other person attained swarga and enjoyed for some time. So he's giving a totally different angle to it. Okay. Not going to jail, but going to swarga. But these people ultimately fall down. Just like today's saying. Okay. A person living in, let's say, some third world country or something who doesn't have much to eat. At least he won't have diabetes, cholesterol, high BP. All those problems are first world problems. Because we have too much to eat and too little to do. Even if you're out of job, government gives you money. More incentive to stay home. And finally, Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about impersonal liberation, giving up one's identity. and no opportunity to take shelter of the Lord. Basically, not engaging in real spiritual progress, which is through bhakti. So through Acharya's commentaries, we can understand the meaning of Vidya, Avidya, and so on. Otherwise, if we just read the shlokas, the mantras, we will be confused. So that is the main point I'm trying to convey. But the whole lecture was based around our contemporary understanding. Okay, nobody here is engaging in impersonal jnana yoga. Is anybody like that here? No, right? So if we did not talk about that aspect, no harm done, because you were not anyway engaging in it. But are you all engaging in modern advancement? So therefore it is useful to talk about that. And that's what Srila Prabhupada has done. Okay, so class ends here more or less. So we covered 1.5 verses. We covered verse 9, which says that avidya is detrimental, but Vidya, which is basically so-called Vidya, which is basically real avidya, is even more detrimental. That was verse 9. And verse 10 was talking about the results, or the, what happens when you pursue real avidya. It does not lead to happiness. It leads to more problems. And through your so-called Vidya, you may solve those problems, but you will always be in this band-aid approach. Okay? You will fix something, somewhere else the air will start leaking. You will put another band-aid there, then somewhere else it will leak. So you are constantly just putting band-aids. You're not solving the root cause. So that is the essence of 1.5 verses. Next week we will cover. Next week there is no class. Romapad Maharaj is coming to Portland. I think on Saturday evening there is a class, right? Where? Somewhere. Salem. So anyway, there's a whole schedule of programs. So obviously our class will not be there. We will meet in 2 weeks. So next week, no class. Then we will cover the remaining 1.5 verses. Dhirah and 11th verse, which will talk about immortality. That will cover this section. These 3 verses are the section. One section, 9, 10, and 11. Are there any questions? Yeah, some Sai Prabhu is asking, no vaccine for death. Yeah, not yet. He's a PhD. So maybe he will discover one and get a Nobel Prize in physiology. But he's a not in physics. He's a computer science professor. So anyway, nice question. People's history of the United States. Yes, that's what I was talking about, by Howard Zinn. We have nice, smart people on the call. He's William. He's a university student. So People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. I don't suggest you read it. It's almost like a horror movie. If you don't like horror movies, don't read that. At least skip the first 20% of the book. You can. People's History of the United States. It's a US history book. I got the why I know about it is because we homeschooled our children, and for history class, homeschooling, I looked up and I thought people recommended heavily this book. I got it and I started reading. I was horrified. I said, I'm not going to tell this to my children. I told little bit, but a little bit of a diluted version. It was too graphic. And people say this all happened. It's not like he's making up. It's not conspiracy theory. It's all real, but the government obviously doesn't want to talk about it because it makes them look bad. But now slowly and slowly the things are coming out, and that's why they have stopped celebrating Columbus Day. It's not a matter of national pride anymore that we, so horribly killed the Native Americans and just claimed this as our land, so to say. Thank you, William. I don't see any more questions. हाँ, एक सेकंड, और कुछ अनाउंसमेंट है वो सेवा के लिए? और कुछ?
Next Friday, there'll be so many programs, but one will be at our house.
हाँ. Yeah, so couple of announcements. Next Friday, we will have a program at our house on Bhagavad Gita by His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj. All of you are invited and welcome. Please come to that. And there'll be a whole slew of programs. Please take part in that. Today is Gita Jayanti. I hope you had all a blissful time. If you haven't meditated on Bhagavad Gita yet, still there is time in the West Coast. It is 7:30. After going home, read one chapter, read one verse, one page of Bhagavad Gita, one line at least. Meditate on Bhagavad Gita. Very nice. Not for stress relief, but for connecting with Krishna. All right. And tomorrow in the temple, we will do full chanting of Bhagavad Gita in both Sanskrit and English. Please come and take part. All of you can chant. Yes, one person may have the mic in front of him, but everybody will together, they will chant. So bring your Bhagavad Gita. If not, we have many in the temple. You can chant in Sanskrit, morning 9:30 to 12:30 Sanskrit, then 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock English translation, some chanting. It takes, each one takes 3 hours. So 6 hours you can meditate on Bhagavad Gita tomorrow. So that announcement is there for tomorrow. For Bhakti Shastri, I don't have any announcements. Yeah. One of the other announcements was, if anybody is willing to seriously help in some things that we would like to do for outreach activity, please let us know. If you are interested to help out by spending a couple of hours or an hour a week or something like that. But again, not required, but if possible, please, you can let us know. But seriously to committed. That was the announcement. Okay, yes, Prabhuji, what question?
Prabhuji, you mentioned that our Vedas, like 90% of Vedas is dedicated to fixing the problem for material life, right? So I was thinking why it was written in that fashion, because given the authority Vedas enjoy, like they have.
Yes.
And
Yes.
The state problem down the line.
Correct. No. So the purpose, so Prabhuji is asking a question that why are the Vedas, 90% of it are talking about addressing material problems. Okay. So they are taking us through the gradual route, and Vedas are eternal, meant for all ages. Unlike Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which were specifically meant for Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, our lifetime is short. It is said in Kali Yuga, lifetime is 100 years. In Dwapar Yuga, it is 1000 years. In Treta Yuga, it is 10,000, and Sat Yuga, it is 100,000 years. Now, you may not believe how can somebody live for 100,000 years. So many things we may not believe. The highest thing we don't believe is, does God exist? So that discussion can go, that's a different discussion. I don't believe. Okay, but keeping that discussion aside, Vedas are eternal, and they tell a gradual way for regulated sense gratification. Okay, it's not like just unrestricted. Today it is unrestricted. Since this modern technology is different from the Vedas in that sense. I spoke incorrectly. If I give the impression, I did give that impression that just modern technology is direct replacement of the Vedas. No. So thank you for asking that. Modern technology is promoting unrestricted sense gratification. Like I said, there will come a day when with one eye you can watch one channel, another eye you can watch another channel. That day will come. How it will be enabled? Through modern technology, let us say. So basically it is unrestricted sense gratification. If you had one more eye, you could use that also to watch a third channel. But Vedas are saying that restrict your sense gratification. So for example, I will give a couple of examples. Okay, like meat eating. Some people enjoy eating meat. So Vedas will say that, okay, eat it twice a week. On these 2 days, it is allowed to, as per the Vedas, they will give you a prescription. On these 2 days, you are allowed to eat. So if you are following the Vedas, yeah, it allows. but on these 2 days. So at least it restricted you, right? And also before killing the animal, you have to speak a mantra in the animal's ear. And the animal's ear, the mantra that you speak is, in this life, I am going to kill and eat you. Next life, I will offer myself to you. You can eat me. So you have to chant this mantra in the ear, and then you can sacrifice the animal. The animal immediately gets a new body in a different world or whatever. But you can eat the meat. So with that knowledge, with that restricted sense gratification, it's restricting. Somebody may think, oh my God, I don't want that consequence. Better not eat. So it is promoting restriction, and slowly, people would understand, okay, from everyday eating to 2 days in a week. Then they will finally come to 1 day a week. Then they might come to, okay, why eat at all? So it is taking you in the right direction. And then you will say, oh, now I don't need this 90% portion, but there is this 10% left, which I'd never read. Let me read that 10% portion. Then say, oh, there is Bhagavan there. There is Bhakti there. Let me do that. So that is the purpose of the Vedas. It's not that they are promoting. So that is the difference between Vedas and modern technology. Modern technology is not saying if you keep indulging in modern technology, it will take you towards God. No, it will only take you farther and farther away. Whereas if you start following the prescription of the Vedas, it will take you slowly towards God. But the journey will be through giving you the tools for sense gratification, but in a increasingly restrictive proportion. Does that make sense? So it is taking you through that gradual process. That's why the Vedas are respected, or they are our, revered books. But as who said? Prabhuji said, and as Lord Krishna has said, in Kali Yuga, we don't have that long time, that much runway. Okay. So very quickly we have to come to bhakti. And therefore, Lord Krishna came and gave us Bhagavad Gita, where he said, do not read Vedas, just follow Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is very quickly diving into bhakti. All right. So yes, Vedas do exist, but it's not recommended to read.
Place for everyone, wherever they are in their spiritual journey.
Yes.
In the Vedas.
Yes, that's another good point which my wife is bringing up. Many people, they may not be ready to take bhakti even in Kali Yuga. So for them, we can use the Vedas to at least say that, okay, you don't want to directly dive into bhakti. At least you can restrict your sense gratification. See, it's mentioned in the Vedas. So they can have some, so there is a place for everyone in the Vedic literature. Like a patient goes to the doctor even today, and 2 patients are there, both have diabetes. One is more strong-willed. Doctor says, no sugar for you. He says, okay, no sugar for me. From that day, he leaves it. He's more determined. One person says, no, not possible at all. How can I not? How? He says, okay, you can have 1 cup of tea only every day with 1 spoon of sugar, no more. Then this other person can ask, we both have same level of diabetes. To him, you are saying, you can have 1 cup of tea with sugar. To me, you said no sugar. Why difference? Same doctor, same disease, 2 different prescriptions. That depends on the patient. If the patient is strong-willed, he can take it. Doctor, the ultimate medicine is no sugar, or the ultimate solution is no sugar. But if one cannot take, then doctor will relax it a little bit for him. Instead of eating 10 cups, 10 spoons of sugar, he wants to say at least eat 1. Okay. So Vedas are relevant in the modern times, but for the serious practitioner, you're expected to be on like this other patient, immediately remove. But if you cannot, then at least follow that. Your one life may be only 100 years, but over multiple lifetimes, you can gradually make progress. Okay, anything else? Okay, I'll take the questions, but on the Zoom and for the Bhakti Shastri students, if you are getting late or something, you can drop off. There are more questions here that we will continue to take, but if you drop off, even if you dropped off at 7:30, which was the official time, that is totally fine. Any time beyond 7:30 is bonus, is not counted for purposes of attendance. Just want to say, so please feel free to drop. The whole recording will be available, but we will keep it on. And also put your real name in the Zoom. And now it's too late to do that, but anyway. So for purposes of attendance, what else? Yeah, so we will continue taking question answers. Please feel free to drop if you are getting late.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, you are welcome to stay if you want. Yes, Ashutosh Prabhu, and then.
Yeah, not a question. Secondly, I think it also
Kindly mute yourself. We have a question in the room. If you have a question on Zoom, raise your hand, please.
it allows us to answer, these compelling arguments with atheistic thinkers like Richard Dawkins make, right? They have this excessive reliance on science, or what you can call Vidya, and literally nothing of bhakti. And they make very compelling and sincere arguments, but I think it is not very satisfactory. There's no outcome to that. Right? So I think these two shlokas are very good to answer that.
Yes, very nice. Thanks. So if those that could not hear, Ashutosh Prabhu was just making a point that, yes, today's modern philosophers or scientists make very atheistic arguments, but the arguments that are made, for example, by Srila Prabhupada and through these verses are more compelling and more give a better sort of overall understanding. Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, if they have solved everything, then we should all be very happy and satisfied. Why are we not that? Yes, Madhu Prabhu, or who raised? Yes.
So there was a point made at one point that pious activities will can take you to a elevated platform that says further where the span is more. Whenever I hear this statement in a lot of classes, and then it's followed by the fact that then you still fall down. So
Not you can, you will.
You will fall down. Okay.
Not fall down.
Okay. Means you can
Come back.
Come back.
Fall down means it is somehow your mistake that you fell. Skhalitam, it's called you slipped. So there is no, it's just like on a vacation. It's not like you made a mistake and your vacation ended. Your vacation was supposed to end by design. Anyway.
So my curiosity question there is that why is it, unless it's written, why is it always on the other side that you will come back? Why can't I go ahead from the Swarga to the next level? I understand as a human, in the human life, I should strive for the best or the ultimate best.
Yes.
But what if I'm at Swarga level? Why is that in all the conversation you say here that you will come back? Why isn't it that you can
From Swarga you cannot come, you cannot make, not you cannot, it's extremely hard to make spiritual progress in Swarga. Because it is designed for your sense gratification, because you have earned it. I'll give a humorous example and then I'll give a little bit more serious answer. I have taken a lot of I have vacations, right? I'm entitled to 4 weeks of vacation every year. I end up taking whatever. And so many times I have thought that, oh, I will have some unfinished work. I take my laptop on vacation. I think I will, finish this work, because, you cannot do vacation all the time. 1 hour a day or whatever, I will work and I'll finish this off. How many of you have tried that? How many of the time has it worked? Never worked, isn't it? So that is the point. We may think theoretically it is possible, but there the sense gratification in Swarga is so much that it is virtually impossible. Okay, because the place is designed for your sense gratification, and this spiritual progress is not, is exact opposite of sense gratification. You have to restrict your senses. Half of Bhagavad Gita is about vairagya and tyaga. So restricting our sense gratification is a essential component of spiritual progress. So these are completely opposite. The whole circumstances are completely non-conducive. However, from the higher planets, Maharloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Brahmaloka, it is possible to make spiritual progress further to all the way to Vaikuntha. So Svargaloka is this it's like a Disneyland. You saved your money through pious activities. You earned it. You very much earned it. Now you go and enjoy. Where is the question of austerity and vairagya and tyaga? It's just not conducive. So it's not that you cannot, you have only, that place is just designed like that. Any other questions? So yes, Surya Prabhu, you had a question. Did you? On the Zoom? Probably not. Okay.
My observation about myself is that, like, as I've been looking from last 10 years now, or generally for people to move back to India and stay in the same thing itself is challenging the thing. They are not even in Swargaloka. They are just like moved from living better, I don't know, country.
Exactly.
So much better. But still we get used to so quickly
Exactly.
with this thing.
This is like our mini Swarga. And how much austerity are we being able to tolerate? Literally, I myself, whenever we have a bank account or something in India, one phone call to them goes into like 10 phone calls and this, and little bit here things work better. And we think, oh my God, how would we ever want to, how could we ever live there? You have to deal with all these problems. And then, yeah. Yes, exactly. Passport renewal. We renewed our kids' passport in the US. It was a breeze. Because every 5 years for children you have to renew. Indian passport renewal form itself is hard to understand. The questions itself are like, in as if in some different language.
We need to Google for the most of the questions,
What to answer? Yeah, you have to depend on Google to tell you.
Prabhuji, I take leave.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so we will end the class here. Thank you so much for joining. Next week, no class. We will have a whole series by His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj, and we will meet in 2 weeks. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.